Okay. Hello, hello, hello. We are going to start this again. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to redo this. So if you guys were on my live that I was just on, I apologize. Oh my gosh, that was awful. And you're like, what are you doing? I'm actually on here talking about something completely different. And I'm hoping that this works. So, if you are just joining me, thank you for tuning in. I know you guys are incredibly busy, and I just wanted to do this live. Why? Because today is my 1 year anniversary from my podcast, Paddle into Fit. Sorry, Paddle Forward. I just got off this live. That was like a nightmare for just technical issues, and it was promoting my the ambassador program, the program I'm ambassador to. Y'all, I need a drink, but this is water. It starts on Sunday. So I wanted to come on though, because the idea was that that was supposed to go super smooth. And then I was going to get pumped up to do my 1 year anniversary podcast video. And I decided, you know what, Anakani? We're going to paddle through this. We're just going to go live again. So I don't have my script memorized. I know, don't judge me. But okay, so here we go. Welcome to Paddle Forward, the podcast where we navigate the currents of life, embracing motherhood, mindfulness, and the pursuit of your dreams. I'm your host, Anna Connie Walters, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with you. In each episode, I'll dive into insightful conversations, share inspiring stories, and explore practical strategies to help you unleash your creativity, find happiness within yourself, and navigate the beautiful but sometimes challenging waters of life. Whether you're a new mom seeking balance, a dreamer in pursuit of your passions, or simply someone looking to live a more meaningful and fulfilling life, this podcast is for you. Together, we'll paddle forward, embracing the waves of change and discover the extraordinary possibilities that lie ahead. So grab your metaphorical paddle, grab your favorite oil, inhale the peace, exhale the chaos, and let's dive into today's episode. So, today is literally my 1 year anniversary doing this podcast. And I was like, what do I want to talk about? Because I wanted to really celebrate it. And there's just so much. So I'm, 43 this year, and I have a 2 year old. And so, literally, the 1 year of my podcast was me also going through that secondary phase of going from mom of a 2 year old to mom of like a 1 year, mom of a newborn, of like going from that 1 year phase, 12 months to 24 months, which is like a huge, huge growth phase for kids. And as a first time mom, it was a journey. So, um, I'm super proud of myself because I realized that not very many people get to this point in their podcast. So I guess a lot of people literally never get even past their fourth episode. Now, I think I've only recorded 12. Sorry, this would be maybe like the 11th. I think I missed 1 month, but I wanted to wait until today to record this podcast for this month because it's a special one. And so that in itself made me really proud. And I don't even know what gave me the idea to start this podcast to begin with, but I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I'm hopefully the ideas that I was out there in the internet space motivating and inspiring other people with my gifts, basically. For those of you who've never like heard of me, I'm Anna Connie Walters. I own the brand Anna Connie Walters. I'm also the creator and founder of my original company, which is Fat Mermaids, PHAT, and that's where you're watching this live broadcast if you're watching it live. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. Yeah, so I'm a new mom. I'm a mature mom. I got pregnant at 40, And we had been trying for almost 3 years when it actually happened. And so it was an adjustment because we kind of had already, like, in our minds, it probably wasn't going to happen. And so it was a blessing and it was scary, just because so many things were already shifting. And then I got pregnant and everything changed. And so I am a nurse by trade. I started out in emergency medicine when I was in my teens in high school, basically. And then basically for 20 plus years was in the medical field doing different things. Most of it was emergency medicine. And then I went into surgical oncology, which I ended up loving, specifically gastrointestinal breast cancer. And then somehow life just kind of brought me back full circle. And so I'm a master stand up paddleboard instructor. I am actually streaming live from Okinawa, Japan. I'm a military spouse to a wonderful Marine who's stationed out here, and that's why we're here. I gave birth here in Okinawa, Japan, right at the end of COVID, and that's kind of what's brought us to today. So I wanted to talk about just my personal growth and like my thoughts about motherhood from both aspects. One, as a advanced maternal age mom, like what I call a mature mom, and then just going from those milestones from like literally that 1 year mark, and you know how I got to basically on my 2 year mark. I call them the terrific twos. And okay, so the the 1 year, my like his 1 year birthday, I think a lot of people like don't give themselves enough credit. Like I know people that spend like more money than I spent on my own wedding on their kid's first birthday. And I know that some of it it's like cultural and whatnot, but I really feel like that first year birthday party should be a party for the parents for surviving that first year. It is, as a first time parent, it is one of the hardest years, the most challenging one for moms specifically. And I was like, I I need a I need a birthday present for surviving, for keeping a human alive for an entire year. And it was like seriously hard. The ups and downs, the emotional stuff. Like, and I talk about this a lot in my coaching, in my private Facebook, in my private community I have off of Facebook, on how there's not that many things that will prepare you for parenthood. Like you can prepare yourself to death, not to death, but as much as you want for the birth. And I really feel like there's a lot of us who that's our end game. Like giving birth, that's like what we work towards. That's like our ultimate goal. But then we don't do any like preparedness for the continuation. Like the birth is not the end game. That's literally just the start to like the rest of your life. And this matrescence journey that I really want to focus on because it's not something that we talk about. We're running around feeling awful about ourselves, judging ourselves. And I feel that it's not fair, that society needs to like catch up and give parents their due justice, that it is incredibly hard, especially for mothers. Like scientifically your brain changes as soon as you get pregnant. Like it changes and you become a different person, and it is really this transformation. So matrescence is essentially like adolescence, that shift from child to adolescence, but it's for mothers going into motherhood. And you really make this identity shift, and everything changes. You will never be the same person again once you find out that you're pregnant. And I don't think people talk about it. And I think when we have these negative thoughts, these feelings that make you feel like something's wrong with you as a mom, as a person, as a parent, like awful, like, oh my God, something is wrong with me. I can't believe I just had this thought. And then we don't tell anybody. We keep it stuffed inside and then we just kind of keep going. And eventually that stuff will, start to magnify and it starts to get worse. And so that's why I wanted to that's what I'm doing, what I'm doing. That's my passion to make. I was like, it is not fair for people to go around feeling these things about themselves when it's completely normal. And it's just because society doesn't allow us to feel like it's okay to share these things. And it's not fair to moms. And me having gone through a lot of this and talking to moms, I teach weekly baby and me yoga. I teach toddler and me yoga. I taught prenatal yoga my entire pregnancy. And the same things keep coming along about how it's so much, like how much anxiety people actually have, especially if you're over 35 and you get pregnant. Like all of these things that get pushed on us, especially in that those prenatal appointments, like, oh my God, they talk to you sometimes, especially if you get like the wrong OBG, like the world's ending, like they talk to you like this, and that's how mine was. She was super intense, and like my blood pressure was always high when I had to see her. And I did all the things that I could, to try to get it down, but it was like she just always struck the wrong chord when I would see her. And I'm like, can you back off just a little bit? Like, give me some space. And so, postpartum, I had a really difficult first few months, emergency C-section, that kind of stuff. And a lot of that changes. Everybody's experience is different, but those things do affect your journey. And so that one year, we were overseas. Japan still had their borders up. We couldn't, even if we could afford it, or my family could afford, like my mom or whatever, like they couldn't. You couldn't even come there. I mean, thank God that I was at a point where COVID had like became lenient with their restrictions, and my husband was actually allowed to be in the delivery room with me along with my doula, because like 6 months prior to, neither of them were allowed, and I would have had to deliver my baby by myself, like many people had already done, which is like I can't even imagine. So I'm super blessed that regardless what happened, I had the actual support that I did. And so I have been doing baby and me yoga and postpartum yoga since I was able to physically do it. And I think that really, really helped me to kind of get to where I was for that 1 year to two. And so like so many things like happened. Like they're all his teeth came in except for his molars. He was walking, he started, talking. His little personality started to come out. We put him in survival swim classes. That was really hard. You guys, if you haven't watched that, you can watch that YouTube video. It was like really emotional. One of the hardest things, but super important for me because I'm always on the water and my husband's, always fishing. So, and patience, flexibility, and finding joy in those small moments, because as he started to become more developed, I started to notice that my me time, his naps went basically kaput. Like there are no nap times now. He gets one. Like I was going from like 4 to 6 naps to like now you only get one. And we'll go into like how that affected me as an entrepreneur, but it was a huge thing to learn how to navigate, to still find the time to do chores, have my own time, because then he started to have um attachment issues where like I couldn't do anything. Like I had to go to the bathroom and bring him with me. Like I couldn't shower by myself. I had, what I had to like eat with him. Usually all my dinners, all my meals were eaten cold because I was having to scarf him down by the time I spent the time feeding him. And it was exhausting. Like, I was like, "Yay, we made it through the first year." And then it was like the party never ends. And I'm like, "Oh, man, I need, I don't know, an energy drink." So I did start to learn like the things that I needed to, starting to support my adrenal glands so that I wasn't constantly in that fight or flight system because, as they start to become more independent, that mommy inside or that parent inside is like, don't do this, don't do that, don't touch that, don't put that in your mouth. Like, it's just this constant, like everything goes in their mouth. They're crawling everywhere. They're just curious. They're touching everything. They want to crawl on everything. And you want them to like explore, but you also are like panicking inside because you're like, what if he falls? What if he hits his head? Like all these what ifs. And it is an awful, like anxiety, like written thing. Now, I don't want to paint this terrible picture if you are like a mom who hasn't either given birth or like has, are still in that 1 year phase. It has been one of the best years so far of, being his mom and watching this development. Definitely the funnest between this 1 to 2 year mark, but it really was just this game changer of knowing that now, looking back, all of the stuff that I had been working on for stress management, knowing how to get my central nervous system relaxed, taking those deep breaths, using essential oils to really make my mind send the signals to my body to relax, to calm down, to find ways to change, kind of just like go with the flow, to be that inner kid the best way that I knew to, kind of not survive, but like have fun with it, was to become his like little kid partner. Like when we were at the playground, have no qualms about like make sure you wear tennis shoes because you're going to be going down the slides. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be, like I was like he can barely do some of this stuff, but I would like, kind of I have like really good muscles because I would carry him wherever he needed to kind of simulate what he eventually can totally do now. So a lot of people were very impressed with like his mobility and his dexterity and stuff because he was doing yoga. He was also learning this stuff because I was allowing him that freedom while kind of controlling the situation a little bit. And so yeah, it's just been a wild ride. I can't even imagine what 3 to 4 is going to be like, but it really was for me just learning to take it day by day. If there were days where I just kind of lost my shit, I would have my reflection, like journal about it at night so that I wouldn't sleep with like any type of regret or negative feelings. And then I would reflect about it in the morning, like come up with a game plan. Tomorrow's a new day. It's a fresh start. What are we going to do different? Like always, make sure that I apologize to him if like I snapped at him for being a toddler or whatever, because the terrific twos are a real thing. And so I'm starting to now transition into that 2 to 3 year phase, but going and learning a lot of the stress management and the things to help me relax with like limited time and like constantly being overstimulated 24/7 really has helped me now prepare for the 2 to 4 year mark, which is when they start to have like, tantrums and things like that. And I don't like to call them tantrums because I'm like, it's usually just because he's not talking right now. So they're just like to me these emotional like moments. Um, and finding, you know, so as I went into it and I started to notice that my time was getting smaller, like I had this interesting conversation with one of my best friends. She's like, I just like you always are doing stuff and you were doing so much with your business. So many things have changed. Like you were able to accomplish so much. I just figured you had like time. And I was like, not like without my son, like I was just making it happen. And I'm like, nope. Like I made it happen because I figured out how to do it with him. Like when he was able to walk, he loves taking stuff off of the printer and giving it to me. Like he feels so accomplished giving stuff to me. I learned how to do chores with him. So like instead of feeling stressed that of trying to do chores and stuff during his nap, and then having this constant like reflective battle between myself of like feeling resentful that I couldn't do actual like work and was forcing myself to like stay up until midnight or waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning before he would wake up to get my work done. It was causing problems like in my relationship and just like my patience with my son. And I was like, this isn't working, like I gotta figure out something else. And I was like, you know what, why am I stressing out trying to do chores while he's sleeping? Why don't I just do it with him? So like I makeshift like a small duster and have him dust while I'm actually vacuuming and sweeping. We did dishes together. Sometimes I would put toys in there in like a little plastic bucket, and he would do that. He would like pretend he was washing. I would like, it took longer and made a bigger mess, but at least they got done. And he actually made things that I really didn't like in terms of chores, folding laundry, doing laundry, cleaning, especially washing dishes. I hate washing dishes. He made it actually enjoyable and more fun. Kids have a way of doing that. And so I really encourage you, if you're in that phase of your struggle, find ways to include them in. Like he loves doing dishes, and my husband's like worried that he's gonna like love to do them now, and then when it gets time for him to do it as a chore, like he's gonna hate it. I'm like, I don't think that it's because I'm having him do dishes now. Like he loves the water, and that's the one thing that I did learn is finding the natural things that will automatically reset. So if he's having like a complete meltdown and I can't understand what it is, and it's so to the point that I'm overstimulated and it's starting to affect me, we take our shoes off and we go outside, or we play in the water, whether we take a shower or I fill up we do dishes, or we just go into the sink, put some toys in there, plug it in there, fill it up a little bit, and just play until he calms down. Then I calm down, and then we keep going. That was probably one of the best things that I learned how to do. Being outside and getting grounded with earth is like super beneficial. That or water. Water is like the better of the two. um but sometimes just walking, just literally going barefoot outside is like the easiest and the fastest. Um so time management was a big thing, and I had a huge growth in my personal business. I ended up with some really amazing contract opportunities. It was the first time I had actually made like really real money in my business. I had rebranded. I became a master sup instructor right in that time frame. And I don't even know really how I did it. And the best thing I could tell you is just time management and really like blocking out dedicated time, because I knew that I didn't want to be one of those moms that like ignored my kid or had them watching TV just to get things done. Like I still have him, like he loves, but he's got an attention span of like 15 to 20 minutes, whatever he's watching, and then he comes looking for me. Um, and so learning like, okay, just, 5 minutes, let me respond to this email. And then, because I didn't like, I would maybe get 1 minute. And so I knew that most of the stuff I needed to do was in that 1 hour, middle of the day break. And it was like, okay, my top 10 things that I need to do in order of the most important. And I just would go as fast as I could, with what I had in terms of time. And then I moved on to that next section. And for me, I think the hardest one was finding time for myself and self care. I'm a big mama bear. I had a lot of anxiety when we would be separated, and I hated hearing him cry. And it's actually like not just this thing that's me, like it's an actual just a trigger that moms have, like it's across all mammals, not just humans, that when you hear your baby cry or your child cry, it automatically is like a chemical response that your body goes through, and it's this feeling of anxiety so that you can like go and protect your baby. You become that mama bear, and and so um having that grace of just being like, he's gonna be okay, really finding people that I trusted to watch him for an hour. Even if it was just to hire, like I hired a young babysitter and I like was in the room the whole time. And then eventually I like laughed for like 30 minutes. She's like, he cried the whole time. And I was, and it was really hard. And then eventually an hour, and I built up to it. And so it just depends on your comfortability. But for me, it was hard. It was hard to like physically separate myself. But I started to realize how much I actually needed, even if it was just for 1 hour, to have it. And then so my husband would, he's working. And so weekends would be the only days that he could give me, those few hours. And you know, I could have probably left him with him for more, but I'm still breastfeeding. He's 2 and I am still breastfeeding. And so finding that balance, because it is hard. I can tell you from personal experience, if you're one of those, that I feel you. I feel how hard it is to just leave your baby. It doesn't even matter if it is with somebody you trust, especially if it's an emotional departure when they see you leave. But I will say that reassuring them, I mean, he still cries when I leave sometimes, but reassuring him, I am going to come back. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back, because you realize that they're going through their own psychological, like, wait, like, no, like, we are one. You cannot leave. Wherever you go, I go. And so that probably was the hardest, to find the time. And so one of the things that really worked for us is that we would take baths together. And I would put some Epsom salts in the bath. I would put some kid-friendly essential oils from Young Living. They have this whole thieves line. It's already pre-diluted. It's amazing. I love it. I'll leave the link in the show notes. Um, and that way we would both get the benefit. It would really help us both sleep. And then I would make sure that I was taking care of like my adrenal glands, and making sure that I was getting the right nutrients during the day, making sure that I was getting in the right caloric, because I was still breastfeeding, so that I would sleep well. So even though I might not have been able to get good quality sleep, I was still sleeping really well in those short hours, because it took him until he was almost, I think I want to say like 22 months before he started sleeping through the night. It was a really long, almost 2 years. So, bless you mamas who have babies that sleep through the night like immediately. My baby was not one of them. Um, And so balancing motherhood with entrepreneurship, time management was probably my best friend, and prioritizing things, from a to-do list, and having the grace. But like, you know what? I am doing the best I can, and that is enough. And I tell my clients, like my students that are in my baby and me yoga class, that's how we end the class. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. I know it takes a lot of effort to take you and baby out of the house, get you both ready, get you guys here. And so give yourselves, a really big hug for taking the time out for today, because this is self-care. Self-care is important. It's not selfish. And remember that you are doing the best you can, and that is enough. Inhale the peace, exhale the chaos. Because the struggle is not just you. Like, we're all going through our own, and those are the things that I want to just bring light to. And like I said, massive, like, I rebranded, was a big one under Anna Connie Walters. So Fat Mermaids is still its own brand, but I have now, it's now an umbrella brand, Anna Connie Walters. I branded under my own personal name, which is a big deal. I became a master sup instructor in this time. I ended up getting 3 total DoD contracts, which was pretty big. And so the support of my husband, uh, the self drive of myself. Sorry, I don't know why my nose is, and I don't have any tissues. I'm sorry if you're like disgusted by that, but, and yeah, um, I did it all while being a mom, and I did a podcast, which is pretty awesome. Journaling was a really big thing, because sometimes that became my self-care, like just kind of letting go of all the stuff that I just was struggling with, things that, like, thoughts that I was having again, that would make me question, like, who, like, are these normal? And I would be like crying because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like sometimes he would just get into these crying and there was nothing I could do to get him to stop. And again, there's a lot of methods that I talk about in my classes that are like key, like oming, the soothing, like there's techniques that I teach in my baby and me yoga class and my toddler and me yoga class that are like instant, like they see. I was like, look, I know it sounds weird, whatever, but I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna do it myself. I'm just gonna have you guys watch and look at all the babies, and the babies will instantly like look at me and they'll all be quiet and they like will seriously be like, oh yeah, I'm trying this. And I'm like, I'm telling you, this is my golden method. So I'm going to show you right now. So if you're ever in that space where your child or baby is like screaming at the top of their lungs, you've tried everything, you have no idea what to do. If you want, go out, take your shoes off. I mean, your shoes and socks off, go out barefooted so that you can get grounded while you're doing this. But it's essentially doing an om. I'm going to show you two different methods. So it's aum, so it's aum. Okay, is that vibration, but you need to have baby like close by. So pretend like this is a baby. If you're watching, you have baby in your hands, and ideally it would be nice if you can get chest to chest. And so, you'd be like comforting baby. Take a deep breath, and then as you exhale, do it 3 times. You have to do it 3 times. Um, you'll notice maybe that first one they won't stop crying, and then the second one they'll start to like like moments of like they're not crying because they're trying to be like, wait, what is happening? And then that third one you'll see that they'll start. And I keep doing it until I have to. The other one is it. So we naturally go shh, and we do usually like this. We just kind of go back and forth. But a great way to do it is to actually bounce. So bend your knees and you're trying to do this bounce, and you go shh, 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 shh. Pat him on the back, maybe do some circles. That's very comforting for the baby. And so as you're doing it, you're continuously, and what you want to do is you want to lift your heels up and slap them down. Like, oh, that's really loud, but you know what I'm doing. Like, I don't want to do it too loud because I'm recording this, but you want to lift when you go up, you want to come up onto your tippy toes and then gently bounce down so that as you bounce down, your heels are coming down and you're doing inhaling through your nose, nice deep breath, belly expands, and then as you start to exhale, shh, 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 shh. I'm telling you, for my toddler, it is massive. Like my husband, I don't know if he's caught on, but like I'll do it when he's having a really just emotional moment, and he will just like completely like just let his whole weight go down. Sometimes I have to go into a mirror and like look to see because I'm like, did he fall asleep? But it is like massively effective. So those are my gifts to you for watching this podcast up to this point. Um, and so yeah, uh, it's a journey, but if if you just kind of embrace it, find the little moments of joy. Those little moments where like it's like almost disaster, but you take your adult hat off and look at it from a child's perspective and have fun with it. um Find humor in whatever it is, even if it's like, oh my god, they just spilt like this bowl of whatever, you know um find some humor in it, make something fun. Don't put it on them, they're toddlers. And um and just find joy in those small moments and turn like what could have been an awful disaster to like something that's like a new memory. Take pictures, be fun about it, and eventually it will be something that you can laugh about if you can't turn it into something instantly funny at that moment. Making sure that you still try to take that self-care time. I know it's super hard, especially as they start to become like emotionally and physically attached. If you've already gone to work, That's probably a little bit different for you. So I'm really talking to that mama out there who is stay-at-home mom. You gotta just try, even if it's just for 30 minutes or an hour, even if it's just to have somebody watch them while you're in the house. That is okay too, if you can have it happen. Asking for help is one of the hardest things, even for me. And I highly encourage you to try to figure out what is the root of why it's so hard for you to ask for help, and then kind of work through it so that you can get yourself to the point of asking. Um, it is very, very hard for me, but I know that I need to work through it because you cannot do this alone. You really do need a community, a support. It doesn't have to be family if that's not in your situation, but you need a tribe. So, you know, a BFF, a friend, somebody that you know is not going to judge you, even though you feel that that's always happening. Try, okay? Try. Even if you have to try 100 times before it actually comes out, and be like, hey, do you mind watching him for her for, an hour so that I can go get my hair done or whatever? As long as you're trying. That's all I want you to try to do, okay? Because remember, there's small steps. Um, I'm looking at my notes, so yeah, continue to paddle. I actually competed in my first stand-up paddleboard race since my Dahui race. That was a while ago. That was when we were in Hawaii. So it's probably been 6 years since I was in a competitive race, and I won first place in women. So that was a big milestone and a big win for me from a paddling standpoint. And so I'm a military spouse stationed overseas with my husband. And so that's always just, being overseas, not as an expat, but still being considered an American citizen on foreign soil. It's just always kind of a nuance, and, trying to support other military spouses, especially if they're really new to the military. I mean, I was in the military, my brothers are in the military. And so, being kind of when I met my husband, I already had an expectation, but even though I had that experience on the other end, when I switched roles and became independent, I was like, yo, this is hard. Now, luckily for us, because of COVID, we've been here longer than most places that we traditionally would be. We usually move every 2 years. And so we actually are looking, probably this will be our last year here in Japan. So really getting ready for that, because I did a lot of, moving and things like that. Visiting family at home for the first time, traveling over like doing an international flight with a toddler by myself. Like he wasn't two yet, but he was like a year and a half. I had to go home to see my grandma, and that was an experience. That was an experience, and I cried one of the flights. But there was, again, moms out there, like, support each other. There was a mom behind me, and she didn't have no kids, but I felt like really bad for the people that were like in the rows immediately around us. And she's like, I just want to, because he finally fell asleep, and she was like, I just want to let you know you're doing an amazing job. And she's like, my son was exactly like yours. Like, he just, whenever we would fly, he was just like, nothing worked. She's like, I just wanted to let you know. And then I like cried the rest of the flight because she said it. And then it, like, I just let it, like, marinate. It was heartwarming. I needed to hear it, but I also was like, all that anxiety and stress from like figuring out how to get him to be quiet on the flight, just like trembled, and that's what it is. So yeah, just a few things. So embrace the transition. Understand that, this is your journey, and it's transformation and growth. Every year it's going to be transformation and growth for the two of you. And so just remember my keywords. You are doing enough. Sorry, you are doing the best you can, and that is enough. Okay. Uh, so self-compassion, be kind to yourself, Give yourself grace. We are not born with some genetic predisposition of knowing exactly how to be parents. It is something that we learn how to do just like they learn how to be humans. Um, and you were doing an amazing job. I I don't have to be there to see it, but it is nice to hear it because I feel like there are a lot of things that you do that go unnoticed, that go unappreciated because to everybody else they're just everyday tasks. But I know how hard sometimes days can be or how much you do to make things look so seamless and surround yourself with people. It does take a tribe. That's why I've created a private member area off this internet. It's in my own space. It's called Anakani Oasis. If you ever want to be part of that, I try to though the goal is to build it so that I can share resources and workshops and guides and things like that in this space. It's still getting built out as my vision and everything kind of comes together because it's a space where I'm bringing everybody, all my mamas, all my water sport lovers, all my crafters, these small other mini passions that I have, and like sharing that in one big community so that we can inspire and empower each other, and no matter where we are in our journeys of life. And then I think the main other takeaway is setting realistic goals and expectations for yourself. So for me, I had all these dreams about how I wanted to run my business, where I wanted to be in my business, but I had to be realistic and I had to decide what was going to be important. And I didn't want to put my son in daycare or preschool or get a full-time nanny or anything like that. Those were my personal decisions. So you have to figure out what works for you. It just wasn't something that I was capable of doing. Like I just emotionally couldn't leave my son with anybody, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and be there for all of it. And it came um, at a price or a sacrifice of having to, you know, put some of my business dreams on the back burner, but not put them away in a box. Like eventually I came back to them and I've done massive, massive achievements, but it did take that grace of giving myself permission to like be a mom first and then understanding that eventually I would have the time to do what I needed to do with my business. It is just going to be growing at a slower pace. Um, and there are things that I've learned, especially in the last part of the last year of investing in self, like actually putting money into coaching programs and courses to improve myself during that time of kind of slow entrepreneurial like part of it, like where I wasn't going to be able to do all the things that I was normally doing because my time was limited. So instead of stressing myself out with trying to build my business, I built myself, which then really helped me actually with parenting, with understanding what he was going through, what we were going to be going through, to prepare me for what was going to happen when he turned into like the official twos. um the resilience that I created within myself. I just feel so empowered, so ready. um I don't know, like it's personal development. I wish I would have been more open to it sooner. So that was one big takeaway that I would recommend if you're an entrepreneur, whether it's stand-up paddleboarding or you're a yoga instructor or you're, a crafter selling art. If you're in this space where you've decided to be, or maybe you guys don't have a choice and you are the primary caretaker full time at home, and let's just say you're not finding the time to do what you need to do to actually make the business grow, then work on personal development, personal business development, invest in some coaching programs or some courses, listen to them in audio while you're washing dishes or whatever. I do a lot of this training and listening to my courses and stuff while I'm driving now because sometimes we're in the car for 20-30 minutes. each way. And so it really does help. Like you'd be surprised how much you actually can like learn. And then still set goals because it's nice to have something to work to, but understand that you may not reach them when you set your goal like deadline too, and that's okay because you can still celebrate all the small wins that took you to whatever you are, and then you just keep going. Maybe set a new date and be like, okay, so how much have I actually accomplished? How much do I still need to accomplish this, the actual ultimate goal? And so then give yourself some realistic time frames to meet it. And that's it. So things to expect. What I want to do moving forward with Paddle Forward podcast is I want to actually do 2 podcasts a month starting July. And I'm actually going to start going out of my comfort zone and interviewing and inviting inspiring people into the podcast, both on and off water. So, thank you for listening to the podcast so far. If you've been a listener for the past year and kind of watched me grow into the podcast, thank you so much for your support. I really, really, really appreciate it. Um, and so, yeah, I hope you continue to follow me. And I, I'm, I'm, I'm on the sidelines. I'm in the background. I see you. You're doing an amazing job. And if you ever need any help, please reach out to me. I'm so would be honored to support you in your journey. If you want access to my private member area, there should be a link in the show descriptions. It's free. You just sign up for the newsletter. You automatically get access to the vault where the private member area is hosted. And again, as I kind of, get more time and kind of figure out some other stuff of how I want to organize things, you'll start to see more and more content in there. I'll be in there more often, and it's a great place for just community and resources. And so, thank you for joining me on this episode of Paddle Forward podcast. I hope you found inspiration, guidance, and practical tools to navigating your journey with more mindfulness and purpose. Remember, no matter where you are in your life, you have the power to steer your own course. And if you joined today's episode, please be sure to subscribe to Paddle Forward on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you'd like to support the show, I truly would appreciate it if you could leave a positive review and share it with friends and families or loved ones who might need to hear these episodes. I'd love to hear from you too. Connect with me on social media at either at Anna Connie Walters or at Bat Mermaids and share your thoughts, questions, suggestions for future episodes because your feedback is invaluable to me as we navigate this journey together. So remember, every paddle stroke brings us closer to our dreams. So keep paddling forward, embracing the challenges and embracing the beauty of your journey. Until next time, stay inspired, stay beautiful, and keep paddling forward.